In the dusty twilight of a small Texas town, where the sun dipped low like a weary traveler seeking rest, Eleanor Hayes stood on her weathered porch, staring at the endless horizon. At 65, she had long ago traded dreams for routines, mornings tending her modest garden, afternoons volunteering at the local shelter, evenings lost in faded photo albums. "I'm too old for love," she'd whisper to the wind, a mantra born from years of quiet loss, a husband gone too soon to cancer, children scattered across states, and a heart that had learned to beat steadily, if not joyfully. But on this particular evening, as the first stars blinked awake, a stranger's pickup truck rattled down the dirt road, kicking up dust like forgotten memories, and parked uninvited at her gate. Little did Eleanor know, this intrusion would unravel the threads of her solitude and weave them into something unexpectedly beautiful. Eleanor watched warily as the man stepped out, his boots crunching gravel with purposeful strides. It was a cowboy through and through, tall, broad-shouldered, with a Stetson hat shadowing eyes that seemed to hold the vastness of the plains. His face, lined by 68 summers under the relentless sun, carried the quiet strength of someone who'd wrangled more than just cattle. "Ma'am," he called out, tipping his hat with a gentleness that belied his rugged frame, "name's Jack Harlan. I apologize for the bother, but my old Bessie here threw a shoe, tires flat as a pancake. Mind if I use your phone? Cell service out here's as reliable as a politician's promise." Eleanor hesitated, her instincts honed by years alone, but there was something in his voice, a warm drawl laced with humility, that coaxed her forward. She nodded, leading him inside her modest ranch house, where the scent of fresh-baked apple pie lingered from her latest act of kindness for the neighbors. As Jack dialed for roadside help, Eleanor busied herself in the kitchen, pouring coffee into mismatched mugs. It was her way, always giving, never expecting. She'd spent decades pouring her heart into others, organizing food drives for struggling families, knitting blankets for the homeless, even fostering abandoned animals until they found homes. "Folks say you're the heart of this town," Jack remarked casually as he hung up, his eyes scanning the walls adorned with thank you notes and photos of smiling faces she'd helped. Eleanor chuckled softly, waving it off. "Just keeping busy. Life is too short to sit idle." But as they talked, waiting for the tow truck that would take hours on these backroads, Jack shared snippets of his own life, a widower himself, ranching alone after losing his wife to a sudden storm accident 20 years back. "Raised 2 boys, but they're city folk now. Me. I stick to what I know, horses, raíces, and hoping for a little grace." The conversation flowed like a gentle stream, unexpected in its ease. Eleanor found herself opening up about her late husband, Tom, how they'd dreamed of traveling the world but never left Texas. "After he passed, I figured that was it for me. Love is for the young, the ones with time on their side." Jack listened intently, his calloused hands cradling the mug as if it were something precious. Then, with a soft smile, he said, "Age ain't nothing but miles on the odometer, Eleanor. I've waited my whole life for someone who sees the world like you do, not with greed, but with giving." She blinked, caught off guard by the raw sincerity in his words. It wasn't flirtation, it was recognition, like 2 puzzle pieces clicking after years apart. But doubt crept in, how could this be? She was set in her ways, content in her isolation. Or was she? As night deepened, the tow truck's delay stretched their time together. Jack offered to help with her evening chores, insisting it was the least he could do. Together, they fed her few remaining chickens and mended a loose fence board under the porch light. In those simple acts, Eleanor glimpsed his selflessness. He spoke of volunteering at veteran shelters, driving hours to deliver hay to drought-stricken farms, even adopting stray dogs that wandered his ranch. "Life's about lifting others up," he said, hammering a nail with steady precision. "Lost my way after Mary died, buried myself in work. But seeing folks like you reminds me there's more to it." An unexpected turn came when Eleanor mentioned her latest project, organizing a community fundraiser for a young family whose home had burned down. Jack's eyes lit up. "I've got some old tack and saddles I could donate. Worth a pretty penny at auction." It was a small gesture, but in that moment, Eleanor realized this stranger wasn't just passing through. He was mirroring the kindness she'd given freely, without agenda. But the night held more surprises. As they sat on the porch swing, stars blanketing the sky like a quilt of diamonds, Jack pulled out a worn leather wallet and showed her a faded photo. It was of a young woman, laughing in a field of wildflowers, his wife, Mary. "She was like you," he confessed, voice thickening. Always putting others first. After she was gone, I thought I'd never find that spark again. Traveled these roads for years, helping where I could, but feeling empty inside. Eleanor felt a pang in her chest, a profound realization dawning. All her acts of kindness had been shields against her own loneliness. I've been hiding, she admitted softly, tears welling. Telling myself I'm too old, too broken. But maybe love isn't about youth. It's about finding someone who's walked the same weary path. The emotional climax built as a sudden summer storm rolled in, thunder rumbling like distant applause. The tow truck called, delayed further by flooded roads. Jack could have waited in his truck, but instead, he stayed, helping Eleanor secure her windows and bring in her garden tools. In the midst of the downpour, as rain hammered the tin roof, Eleanor slipped on a wet step, twisting her ankle with a sharp cry. Without hesitation, Jack scooped her up gently, carrying her inside like she weighed nothing. He tended to her with care, ice from the freezer, a makeshift wrap from a clean towel, his hands steady and kind. You've spent your life caring for everyone else, he murmured, kneeling beside her. Let someone care for you now. It was an act of pure compassion, selfless and transformative, cracking open the walls around her heart. In that vulnerable moment, Eleanor saw the power of humanity, not in grand gestures, but in quiet generosity that bridges souls. As the storm subsided and dawn painted the sky in soft pinks, the tow truck finally arrived. Jack helped Eleanor to her feet, her ankle already feeling better under his ministrations. I don't want this to end, she whispered, surprising herself. Jack smiled, that same warm drawl wrapping around her like a hug. It doesn't have to. I've waited my whole life for you, Eleanor. For someone who reminds me that love isn't lost with age, it's deepened by it. They exchanged numbers, promises to meet again, perhaps at the fundraiser where his donations would help rebuild that family's home. As he drove away, Eleanor stood on her porch, heart fuller than it had been in decades. In the days that followed, their connection blossomed like wildflowers after rain. Jack returned, not just for her, but to join her causes, delivering meals to the elderly, planting community gardens, showing that selflessness multiplies when shared. Eleanor learned that love at any age is a testament to the human spirit's resilience, a beacon of hope in a world often shadowed by doubt. And so, in that small Texas town, two souls proved that kindness isn't bound by time, it's the thread that weaves us all together, inspiring us to believe that it's never too late for a second chance at joy.